What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your wonderful day, and this will be another weather forecast here by Agent Weather Forecast. This is going to be an update here on the potential for an upcoming severe weather event that'll most likely occur at its worst between Sunday and Monday, but we're looking at these storms to develop as early as Saturday, or I guess tomorrow afternoon. So really watching out for those storms potentially be quite severe. We're not really looking at a big tornado threat, however, really watching for some big time flooding threats and as well some minor hail threats that are potentially likely to develop with these storms here. So really watching for areas in the southern plains and as well in the southeast. But before we get into the forecast, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get into the forecast. So here's our looking at the National Weather Service. So as you see, we already have flash flood advisories and flash flood watches that have been issued, and as well flash flood warnings have been issued just off the coast of, just off the Mississippi River Basin there across Mississippi and Arkansas, right on the border. So we're really primary threat is going to be flooding. Okay, I mean, we're talking about potentially 5 to 6 inches of rain between now and Monday. So a ton of rain to fall down specifically across the Tennessee Valley and as well portions of those higher elevations in northern Georgia, Tennessee, and portions as well in far western North Carolina. So flash flood watches are extended and issued across almost all the state of Kentucky there, as well portions of far southern Indiana off the Ohio River Valley. A few flash flood watches as well issued across north central Mississippi, and those flash flood watches go all the way into far southern Illinois and far eastern Missouri, because that's kind of where we're going to be seeing some big time flooding due to the Ohio River Valley. And in the rest, we do have flash flood advisories in those lighter green colors there across much of Tennessee, portions of Virginia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, and Illinois, and as well portions of Indiana. So really, as of now, really watching for these areas for some big time flooding, and really watching out for these areas for some really strong storms as well. So looking at a south central and potentially as well Georgia and Tennessee Valley storm for this weekend and early next week. Like I said, these storms will start not firing up, but they will start to develop within the next 24 hours. So tomorrow, evening or afternoon, really watching for some storms to slightly develop, and that's going to be part of the Cape. The Cape and all that energy is going to really increase as we're going to be seeing some really warm temperatures over the evening hours on Sunday. We're talking 70s and almost 80s. So it's going to allow for these storms to fire up, and this is going to allow for these storms to continue to strengthen overnight into late Saturday into early Sunday. These storms are going to really fire up across Oklahoma and as well portions of Arkansas, and these will be quite severe. But we're talking another line of storms into now Sunday as the temperatures continue to rise, and that's going to allow for this Gulf moisture as it does come off the Gulf Coast and that cold air to come in. We're going to be talking some nice instability, not for tornadoes. However, we are talking potential some decent amount of helicity in Cape, and as well a decent amount of instability to allow these storms to potentially be severe. And that'll continue all the way up to Monday for some storms to develop across Arkansas and northern Texas, and as well maybe some some slight severe storms across southern Louisiana or central Louisiana as well as southeastern Texas. Let's go ahead and look now at the mid-Atlantic here. So again, the next really 30 hours to kind of see the storms kind of really developing across Arkansas there and portions of Missouri. Again, these could be quite severe, but the main threat really is going to be the flooding here. And this is now by the next 36 hours, so really Sunday, getting to Sunday morning, these storms are going to be really pounding portions of the Ohio River Valley with extreme flooding here. This really won't bring extreme severe weather. However, we could get a few thunders in our first thunders of the year for these areas, as temperatures may get into 50s and not even 60s. So we're talking spring is coming early here, and then it's going to bring us some big time flooding threats across the Ohio River Valley, and as well some really heavy rain. Again, this really won't be the actual severe weather. This is going to kind of be more flooding, as those areas don't really have enough cape to sustain that main severe weather. But now getting to Monday, this is kind of where the severe weather really comes into hand across portions of the Tennessee Valley, the southeast, and potential maybe a line of thunderstorms to develop all the way from Mississippi to Kentucky, and that's going to allow for some more and more flooding. So you see these areas are going to really see some big time flooding As you see, we're going to see our first storm kind of developing as early as tomorrow morning, and then they come a second storm moving to Monday, and as well even Sunday. So quite a good amount of potential flooding. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Cape values here. So as you see now into the next 30 hours, so this is late Saturday, tomorrow evening, Cape values be up to around 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is not obviously the most impressive. However, that is pretty good for this time of the year. So that's going to be enough to develop these thunderstorms to be quite severe. However, it isn't enough to create some big time severe storms, damaging hail, and all of that. But into Sunday, we're going to get even some higher numbers, getting up to potentially 2,200 joules per kilogram. You can kind of see that's a little bit higher there. And I believe the high Cape is actually over 3,500. So we're really at a kind of, I guess, a decent number here. Really watching out for Oklahoma. That's going to be seeing really our highest amount of energy. However, this energy is going to be stretching all the way up to areas like the Midwest and Missouri and Illinois, getting near 500 to 750 joules per kilogram, which is enough to create some slight storms. However, really, obviously, they really won't be too severe. But now getting into Monday, this will continue to move eastward, getting now just under 1,000 joules per kilogram, stretching into Alabama and Mississippi. But the higher totals will kind of stay towards those warmer regions where we're getting some 80s and those really, really warm temperatures across Texas. However, due to the 70s and 80s being widespread across the southeast into this weekend, we will see some Cape valleys stretching quite far east into Georgia. And then these storms actually could be quite severe as well, as we may actually get potentially our highest reading up to 3,000 joules per kilogram into areas like Florida. So we're really talking some higher numbers as this storm does move eastward into Monday. So really watching a potential widespread area of some severe weather. But here's now a look at the Cape values detailed into the actual Texas region. Let me actually move my screen that way. So as you see, the next 30 hours, getting around 1,600 joules per kilogram right here in eastern Texas. So that's going to really be that's going to be really the highest numbers in these areas, just because that's kind of be seeing a really warmer temperature. So we're starting to see some 70s and 80s across Texas this weekend. You got the Gulf moisture coming in, so it's going to really allow for some decent amount of Cape. Helicity will be quite high due to these warmer temperatures. And then as we now actually move my screen a little bit, you can kind of see these really warm temperatures kind of really affecting these numbers up here in Oklahoma, around 2,100 joules per kilogram across this region in central Oklahoma. How the storms are going to kind of maintain to the south. Really watching these areas, we're kind of be seeing some decent Cape values here, but it's going to be seeing our most amount of shear, which is going to be allowing for some really good storms as well. But again, these Cape values will start to move more eastward, getting around 1,300, 1,400, moving to southern Arkansas into Sunday, and some widespread areas across eastern and central Texas where we can get over 1,500, and then that kind of will die out by Monday. So here's now another look at the actual, this is going to be the supercell composite parameter. So this is the SCP here, determining out of anywhere from 0 to above 35, where you can possibly see kind of ranking the chance for seeing supercells here. So I think see these are going to really blow out. Now this is actually I believe this is Saturday afternoon. You can kind of see you're going to really start watching out for some really good storms across that region as well. We're getting as well though, getting near a 2, actually you see a 3, I believe that's actually still a 2. Getting at a 2, so that's still pretty low there. But we're going to see some widespread 1s. Obviously, this is not anything alerting or dangerous or anything too scary. However, it's still a good number. Again, this number, just because it's a little bit lower, doesn't mean we won't be seeing some supercells. But I really doubt we will be seeing any strong tornadoes. And then we get around a 3 there across southern Texas. And as we get now later into Monday, these numbers will move a bit more eastward. So you see, kind of really watching this whole area right here for severe weather for the next few days. That's kind of where we had our highest, or actually our decent values. We actually may get near a 2 across Tennessee if we're lucky, but really won't be too major. This is now going to be look at this significant tornado parameter. So kind of the chance of seeing a tornado. Again, this is going to be really, really low. This is from a 1 to over a 10 here. So let's actually move. As you see, we're going to see our max higher number between the next 24 hours, getting a 1.5 across Texas, that's obviously pretty low. But again, just because we see like a 1 doesn't mean tornadoes not possible. It's really just there's a low confidence. And as we now get in the next around 36 hours, this will stay really low at around 1.2 across these regions. However, this 1.2 and over 1 will be kind of widespread from Texas all the way up to areas like Alabama. But again, not alerting, nothing too major. Again, the biggest threat will be the flooding. But as we get into Sunday, these storms will move more to the east and getting near a 2 now across Mississippi and Tennessee. If anything's over a 4, that's kind of where I'm a little bit on my tippy toes, but nothing too bad. But then now into now the next 51 hours into now later Sunday, we're getting to a 2.6. So nothing too bad. But if it's over, or if it's really over a 5, then that's where it's really, really good probability for tornadoes. If it's kind of above a 4, it's likely. But if it's anything below a 4, it's still very, very unlikely for a tornado. And even if there's an 8, doesn't mean there's going to be a tornado. It's just there's high confidence or there's low confidence. It just depends on the number. How is this all possible? The warm temperatures. So these are the highs into Saturday. You see really warm temperatures developing across the Gulf Coast, getting that Gulf moisture as well. You got some cold air to the north. So we got the cold air here. We got the warm air and moist air here. So it's going to take an eyes all on these areas, and that's exactly how that severe weather is really planning out to develop. So the Cape Valley will be quite high across Texas and Louisiana tomorrow afternoon, and the reason why these storms could be quite severe tomorrow evening is because we're going to be seeing a whole day of really warm temperatures, which is going to allow for these Cape Valleys to be not high, but 1,500, 2,000 joules per kilogram. But again, these warm temperatures are going to get all the way up to areas like Virginia. We can see some 70s. So we're looking at a very widespread area for some storms to develop, and that could be severe as well. As we now get later into now Sunday, though, the highs will be a lot warmer now, getting into the areas like the southeast, getting 77s and high 70s across Alabama, high 70s across the south central, and then getting 70s all the way up to areas like the southeastern coast. And like I said, we're going to start seeing our first 60s in these areas across the Ohio River Valley, which is why we're going to be seeing maybe our first thunder of the year. However, these storms that move in this area they won't be severe, not enough Cape. Obviously, not enough energy. Temperatures still aren't warm enough to create some big storms. However, really going to be watching for some big time flooding across this region, as we are going to be seeing some really, really heavy rain. May see our first thunder, so temperatures will be decent enough to, I guess, withstand a slight thunder or something. But really, the main area, really, it's watching this whole area. Actually, I need to redo that. Really watching this whole area between the next few days. I can't draw my circle right. Let me do this again. Really watching for these areas. There we go. Kind of really watching for these areas in the next few days. That's mainly going to be for this area right here. It's going to be kind of Saturday. And for this area, it's going to kind of be for Sunday and Monday. So it's kind of really watching. Those temperatures are going to really be warm enough and enough to withstand some nice severe weather. Rain, again, like I said, big time flooding threats, specifically near the Tennessee and Ohio Valley, getting up to possibly 7 or actually a little bit less, possibly 6.8 inches of rain across portions of Kentucky. But this rain's going to be all the way from Texas to portions of the mid-Atlantic coast. But the heaviest rain kind of maintained towards Tennessee, Kentucky, portions of Mississippi, as well as some portions of scattered areas across Texas and Louisiana, where we can get some scattered areas over 4 inches. But in this whole region, we're getting anywhere from an inch to possibly 6.8 inches of rain. But this is going to be quite widespread, though, really widespread areas. They got the Mississippi River there. You got the Ohio River Valley. So really watching for some big rivers, some sources of water to get some really heavy rain. That's going to allow for those flash flood watches and warnings that have already been issued. So there you see this one specific little area here getting just under 7 inches there, just around 6.7, 6.8 inches specifically. And you kind of see a little alley right here, kind of you seeing the heaviest rain from Tennessee to Kentucky, and you kind of see some good amount of rain there for Cincinnati, 1.4, around 2 inches there for Louisville, getting possibly 5 inches near Nashville, around 3.5 across areas like Memphis. So really watching these big areas to get some really heavy rain and pounded by rain. You can kind of see some coastal areas off the Mississippi River can get some really good rain, 3 to 4 inches, and then as well areas off the Ohio River Valley get some good amount of rain, 1 to 2 inches of rain. but Atlanta gonna get an inch or so. Areas like Florence, Alabama get 3 inches. So really watching these whole areas to get a ton of rain there. Let's go ahead and check out the day outlooks though. So this is actually the day one out, or this is, sorry, the day two outlook. And we already have a marginal there across portions of Oklahoma, northern Texas, and Arkansas. That's kind of one of my areas where I'm really watching. But I'm really watching for the next few days in general. These areas here, I'm really watching for these areas in the next few days. So I wouldn't be, you can kind of see this and then that. So this is day 3, this is day 2. We already have a marginal for about 2.3 million people, including Denton, Texas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Springdale, Arkansas, and Conway, Arkansas. So really kind of sticking those rural areas. No chance for tornadoes really. But like I did say, we are looking at a slight hail risk, 5% chance. So this is always something to really watch out. And then for the day 3, we have just a general risk for severe weather. No marginals yet. However, I wouldn't doubt we get a marginal risk for at least these areas. So gotta really watch out. But hope you guys enjoy the video and see you guys later.